Hey everyone, Brooker Bill here with you, Active Adults Realty. If you're retiring and Delaware is on your list, or maybe you just heard someone mention it and you're curious, this is everything I'd want to know if I were in your shoes. Taxes, geography, what's it actually like day to day, and how the whole process works. This is the long version of this video, so I'm going to go a little deeper into each of these than I usually do. Let's get into it. Let's start with taxes, because I know that's usually what brings people to Delaware in the first place. Delaware does not tax Social Security income at the state level. There's also a pension exclusion of up to $12,500 for anyone 60 and older, which covers a meaningful chunk of retirement income for a lot of our clients. And on top of that, Delaware has no state sales tax at all. None. Every purchase you make, no extra percentage tacked on. A couple more pieces worth knowing. Delaware also does not have a state estate tax or inheritance tax, which matters for people thinking about what they'll eventually pass on to family. And property taxes here tend to run lower than what a lot of our out-of-state clients are used to, especially folks coming from the Northeast or the Mid-Atlantic, though the exact number always depends on the specific county and community. So that's a conversation we have property by property. Now, I want to be straight with you. I'm not a tax advisor, and everyone's situation is different depending on your income sources and where you're moving from. So take these numbers to your own tax professional, or we can recommend one, and have them run your specific situation. But directionally, this is a big part of why so many retirees look at Delaware seriously. Next, let's talk about geography, because Delaware's small, but it's got real variety depending on what you're looking for. Up north, you got Wilmington in that area, which puts you close to Philadelphia and even DC, if you want access to a bigger city without living in one. The middle of the state, around Dover, Middletown, tends to be quieter and more affordable. We're seeing a lot of new construction and new communities right now. And then there's the coast, Lewes, Rehoboth Beach, Milton, Fenwick, and that whole stretch, which is where a lot of our retiring clients end up because of the beach lifestyle and the small town feel. Well, let me go a little deeper on each of those, because north, middle, coast is a good starting frame, but there's more texture to it. Wilmington and the northern part of the state feel the most like a traditional East Coast city corridor, with easy access to train lines up to Philly and beyond, which some retirees want if they got family or grandkids in that direction, or if they just want the option of a day trip to a bigger city without giving up small state living. Central Delaware, Dover and Middletown especially, has seen a lot of newer community development in recent years, and it tends to offer more homes for the dollar than the coast. We're still being within a reasonable drive of the beaches. And the coastal towns, that whole Lewes to Rehoboth to Bethany stretch, that's where the small beach town identity really lives. Walkable downtowns, a lower pace outside of peak summer, and it's consistently the area we get the most inquiries about from retirees specifically. One more geographic point that surprises people: Delaware is generally small enough that you can live centrally and still reach a beach, a bigger city, open countryside, all within an hour or so. That kind of flexibility is hard to find in a lot of other retirement destinations where you're offered to one type of setting. Now let me tell you what people actually ask me about, because it's usually not what you'd expect. Healthcare access comes up a lot, and Delaware has been investing heavily in that, with expansions from the major health systems in the state. Walkability comes up too, especially from folks moving from car-dependent suburbs who want to be able to walk to a coffee shop or the beach. And HOA costs come up constantly because they vary a lot depending on the community. So that's always a conversation we have specifically about whatever community you're looking at. Now let me expand on each of those a bit, because they each deserve more than one sentence. Our retirees are understandably focused on proximity to quality care as a long-term priority, not just the convenience. And we're touring communities with clients. Distance to the nearest hospital system and to specialist care is one of the first things we talk through, right alongside amenities and price. On walkability, it really depends on which part of the state you're in. The coastal areas tend to be the most walkable, while some of the newer central Delaware communities are more car-oriented, but often have walking trails and community centers built directly in the neighborhood design. On HOA costs, this is generally one of the widest ranges we deal with, because a community with an 18-hole golf course and a massive clubhouse is going to carry a different fee than a smaller community with modest shared amenities, and neither one is right or wrong. It just depends on what you personally want to be paying for and getting. A few other things that come up regularly worth mentioning here: transportation and airport access. Since a lot of our clients still travel to see family, and Delaware's location gives reasonably easy access to Philly or Baltimore, depending on where in the state you land. And weather and seasons. Delaware has a genuine four-season climate: warm summers, mild springs and falls, and winters that are noticeably gentler than what a lot of our northeastern clients are used to, out being a dramatically different climate. One more thing I get asked constantly: should you look at a 55-plus community or a regular neighborhood? Both are common, and there's no wrong answer here. Some retirees want the amenities, the built-in social calendar, and the lower maintenance that comes with a 55-plus community or a community designed for that. Others want to be in a regular neighborhood, maybe closer to family or grandkids, or just because they like a more mixed community around them. We work with both kinds of buyers all the time, and honestly, the right answer just depends on what kind of daily life you're picturing for yourself. If you're leaning towards a 55-plus community, the amenities can vary enormously: clubhouses, pools, golf, fitness centers, organized clubs and activities. So it's worth touring a few different ones rather than assuming they're all the same experience. If you're leaning towards a regular neighborhood, you get more flexibility in home style and often more variety in lot size and layout, but you won't have that built-in social structure in all of them. So it's worth thinking about how you'll build community on your own, through hobbies, volunteering, or simply getting to know your neighbors. Now let's talk about the cost of living more broadly for a minute. Beyond just the tax picture, because that's usually the question people have, housing costs vary significantly across the state. Generally lower as you move from the coast inland, and higher in the demand beach towns during the peak season pricing. Day-to-day costs, groceries, utilities, general goods tend to feel manageable for most of our clients relocating for a higher cost of living state, especially combined with the sales tax savings we already talked about. I'd rather not throw out specific dollar figures since they shift, and I want to make sure whatever I tell you is accurate and current. So if that matters to you, reach out and we'll walk through real numbers for the specific area and communities you're considering. Now here's a section I don't think gets talked about enough. What should you actually do before you commit to moving here? If at all possible, visit more than once. And if you can, visit in different seasons. A coastal town in July feels completely different from that same town in November, and you want to fall in love with the version of Delaware you'll actually be living in year-round, not just the summer postcard version. Some of our clients rent for a season before buying, specifically to get a feel for year-round living before making a permanent decision. And that's a completely reasonable approach if your timeline allows for it. It's also worth spending time in more than one part of the state before deciding. A lot of people come in assuming they want the coast because that's what they know Delaware for. And some of them end up falling in love with central Delaware instead once they actually see it. Keep an open mind during the process. That's generally part of our job, to show you the range of what's out there rather than just what you assumed you wanted going in. Let's talk about what day-to-day life actually looks like, because property taxes and geography only tell part of the story. Delaware retiree and 55-plus communities generally offer a strong built-in social structure if you want it. Clubs, group activities, fitness classes, organized outings. But even outside of formal communities, Delaware's smaller town scale makes it relatively easy to get involved, whether that's through local volunteer organization, hobby groups, or simply the kind of small town familiarity that comes from living somewhere less spread out than a big city or a sprawling suburb. A lot of our clients tell us after the first year that building a social life here happened faster than they expected, in part because so many of their neighbors are going through the exact same transition at the exact same time. So what does the actual process look like? We help people relocate to Delaware from out of state constantly. I know it can feel overwhelming from where you're sitting right now, but it's more manageable than people expect once you've got the right team around you. We walk you through the whole thing, from figuring out which part of the state fits you, to touring communities, to the actual closing and beyond. That process usually starts with a conversation, no pressure, just understanding what you're picturing for your next chapter, budget, priorities, timeline. From there, we typically put together a short list of communities or areas that generally fit what you've described, rather than just showing you everything available. Touring comes next, ideally more than one trip if you're coming from out of state. And then once you found the right fit, we walk you through the process, start to finish, including connecting you with the right lenders, inspectors, attorneys along the way. So wherever you land in Delaware, whether that's up north, in the middle, or down south, reach out to us and we'll help you figure out what actually fits your life. That's what we do. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Looking forward to seeing you and welcoming you to our family. Till then, bye.